Okay, so for the second video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you how I think about these. Um, and then I'm going to actually paint them. So I'm looking at this, and this has a little texture up here. It's giving me the impression that maybe this is a hay slash mud. This is giving me the impression this is a hay slash mud. And then when I look at the walls, you can hardly see it, but there's a little, I mean, you can maybe see it, there's like a little brick, which reminds me kind of a mud brick, given what it is. Whereas, like this one, the walls have nothing on them whatsoever. I do have the same sort of impression of texture on the roofs. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to start off with a total brown. And the reason I start off with the total brown is because on the coloration of every last bit of this is going to have some base level of brown. So I'm going to dry brush all this brown. That's what I think I'm going to do. And then I'm going to differentiate from there. I'm going to pause this now, get that done, and show you. Okay, so I went away and I just chose a dark brown, just the basic dark brown. Now, you can clearly see I made almost no effort to completely cover the surface. It is, generally speaking, you look at it and go, oh my gosh, that's not even remotely done, right? And that's pretty uniform throughout. I can look at this one. Clearly speaking, it's not all the way done. Clearly, I made no effort to try to dry brush the entire bit. And that was uniform on all three. So here's my third yurt looking thing. Okay. So let us continue. Okay, so second color, which was just a matter of taking the darker brown and mixing in a white. Now, I'm trying to get it. There you go. Now you can clearly start to see the details. Let me try something here a little bit. Cover this up. So you can clearly start to see the details. Now, since I've been over it a second time, you can also see that I didn't spend a lot of time doing it. But I mean, if I wanted to plop this down on the table right now, I probably could. But my personal problem with this is the roof and the walls are basically the same color. And there clearly needs to be a color differentiation, and we'll get to that. Here's another one. I mean, you could ideally, if you really wanted to, plop this down, right? But there's some rocks, right? There's little details here. There's some rocks. Little rocks, maybe a piece of wood there, things along those lines. So let's do some more with it. Let's see what we got. So now I'm on my third. In my third, good to form, I have created, now, if you look at the brick, oh, here we go. If we look at the brick, now the brick I have put another more brown than white, right? So it's lighter, but now I can clearly see before this and this were exactly the same. But now there's definitely a color difference. Now it might be subtle here and there, but that's okay. Additionally, I had a more of a white than a brown mix, and I dry brushed it on the top, but I certainly didn't do it uniformly in any way, shape, or form. I also took the opportunity to highlight some of the differentiation here for some of the details. Here's another example. Same deal. Making no effort whatsoever to try to highlight them the same. But once again, if I look at the roof compared to the walls, I'm clearly seeing a differentiation in coloration there. And we're going to make that more pronounced. Okay, so there's that. And then, of course, we have the last one. Each one of them basically doing the same. So I'm using that lighter color to kind of bring that out. Okay. Now, as I understand it, most of the Dark Age huts are straw, right? So there's more straw up here. So straw, yellow, right? But we definitely have a dirty yellow. So before, if you've seen pieces that were done for the desktop, most of the time when they do the top piece, it's very, very yellow, and it's clear. There's a clear delineation between the two. I like to have more subtle colors, so I'll kind of show you how that's done, and I'll bring these right back. Okay, so the last basic highlight color on the roof is kind of a mixed yellow, right? So you can definitely, it's dirty, but you can definitely see the difference now between the walls and the roof. I'm not all the way done with it, right? But as I go along each one of these, based off the texture, some are a little bit more obvious than others, and that's okay. Right? And when they look down, they look pretty decent. So I'm going to do a little weathering, and I'll be back. Now, big secret as you're doing this, a lot of times I don't like the way my stuff looks until it's all the way done. Like, there's a lot of times I'll turn back and go, oh, I don't know. And then I keep finishing it and working on it. Eventually it works out. Like, okay, so I added weathering marks. Very subtle on this one because there's lots of different texture lines of this one. But this one you can really kind of see, and I like how this one came out. So you can clearly see the weathering. The weathering around the doorway, right, as it drifts downwards, right? But you can clearly see kind of the difference between the two, right? And then, of course, this one as well. So you can kind of see the weathering. So put back patterns on it, because, no hay or whatever stays perfect. All right, so I'm going to continue to work on this and then come back and talk to you some more things about what I did to it to give you an idea of what's going on here. Okay, so now what I did was, as you can see around the base right there, I used a gray to highlight the rocks, so there's a clear difference between the walls, the ceiling, and then the floor or the ground. I'm going to add more to that. Okay, but things are starting to shape up. You'll notice I add a little bit more brown back to this so I can really see the difference. So there's a clear layer between walls, ground, and each one of them are a little bit different, like dependent upon. But you can definitely see those rocks around this bad boy now, right? Okay, and we will continue. Okay, so the last thing that I do is I put on some sort of texture, and there could be lots of different things. For instance, I know that grass sometimes grows on the roofs. I know that sometimes you have bushes, so I added texture so it breaks that up. Hold on just a second. So you'll notice right there, I also put like a little flower, and it doesn't have to be anything special. It just kind of breaks up the monotony of the model itself. And it really has a different, it gives it a different texture and a different feel to it. So there's that one. Then there's this one, kind of the same deal. I did have, and of course the white will go away once it dries, but I did have, I don't do it all around the base, not consistently, but there's enough grass around the base to give it, and I put some different things on the walls there, different things along those lines. And kind of the same deal. Well, grass, rocks, differentiate, different way it is. So, there you go. I hope that helps. I hope that was worth your time. I use Elmer's glue to put it on here. The last thing I'll do is probably hit it with what's that called? A dull coat. Kind of dull it out and seal it up. But otherwise, those are 3 huts up, 3 huts down. So, hut, 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 like bad football game. So, there you go.